Well, hello and welcome to Binge Watch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hal Fernando, the group editor of Woman and Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases for the week starting Friday the 6th of October 2023. Including Prime Video's teen time travel slasher comedy Totally Killer and the dark Wall Street drama Fair Play, starring Phoebe Dynevor on Netflix.
And very excitingly, we'll also be checking out the new David Beckham documentary series on Netflix and saying a fond farewell to ghosts on BBC iPlayer. But first, Ian, what is in the news?
Well, first bit of news, obviously last week we said we were going to preview Loki on Disney+, but we didn't get a screener, so we haven't been able to do that this week, so apologies. In other news, an animated version of Roald Dahl's classic children's book The Twits, about the titular spiteful married practical jokers, will air on Netflix in 2025. What else is in the news, Hannah?
And in the Paramount Plus thriller Insomnia, based on Sarah Pinborough's novel, Vicky McClure will play a successful woman whose life falls apart when she becomes sleep deprived.
Well, I think we've got a decent selection and quite varied this week, as ever. We're going to start on Netflix. This one arrives on Friday the 6th. It's a feature-length drama that I believe has also been available in cinemas called Fair Play, and here is a clip.
We're gonna go grab a drink. You wanna join?
You made half the big calls last quarter alone. So, what do you want?
He's promoting me.
Congratulations.
I'm sorry.
Why? I'm so happy for you. Okay,
this has been dubbed sort of Me Too for Wall Street, if you like. It's about a young couple, Emily, played by Phoebe Dynevor, and Luke, played by Alden Ehrenreich. God, tricky names those. And they work together at a hedge fund. But because of the rules at work, nobody actually knows they're a couple, okay? But away from the office, they're having lots of sex and they're all loved up and they actually get engaged. That's not really a spoiler because that happens right at the beginning. However, when she gets a promotion that he was expecting, everything changes. So it's really well done, I must say. It's a debut from the writer and director Chloe Daumont, and it's really about, how does it affect women in the workplace and at home when they are perhaps more successful career-wise than their other halves. So as well as having the kind of toxic male-dominated Wall Street workplace, which is pretty grim, and the way people comment about how she got the job is all pretty awful. Obviously, the power dynamic has changed between them because obviously she's now his boss. And at home, it's really well done because far from being excited about getting promoted, she's actually frightened of telling Luke because she's worried how he's going to react. And it really does affect their relationship. So it's quite a grueling watch in many ways, especially because what it has to say about sexual politics, especially in the workplace, and about the price women may have to pay unfairly for being really good at their jobs. So, it's pretty dark stuff, but it's very well done, I must say. Both the leads are great. It's a really good script. Recommended. What did you think about this, Hannah?
This is excellent, isn't it? Just a real not different take, but just the dynamics. And as you say, the script is brilliant. I think Phoebe Dynevor has just, everything she turns her hand to seems to be brilliant at. And I don't know, suddenly you are just completely captivated by this. You feel like you're part of it. And how the relationship changes so much, and particularly in such a stressful environment, like a hedge fund environment, like you say, the power struggles between people, and the idea that the woman got the promotion rather than the man, and how that affected. And I couldn't help but wonder what it would have been like the other way around, except that would have been expected, wouldn't it? So really, really great. Really enjoyed it.
And forgot to mention that the wonderful Eddie Marsan is also in this, playing their boss. Also on Netflix, something completely different. It arrived on Wednesday the 4th of October, and you've probably seen it splashed all over the front pages of certain newspapers. It's the documentary series Beckham, and here's a clip.
My life had become something different.
We were worried that he'd lose all what he'd worked for, because football come first and all of a sudden it wasn't.
Okay, David. Big smile.
It definitely didn't change me.
Well, it changed. There's no doubt about that.
It's a red card for David Beckham.
Yes, many column inches on this, and for a number of different reasons, as you'd imagine, not just because they are so incredibly famous. But the question that I have with this is that, so when I first knew this was happening, I don't know why, I didn't register that they were actually involved, that this was their documentary. I kind of thought this was a Netflix take on someone's family, and I couldn't help but wonder whether they were going to do it anyway. And then the Beckhams thought, I'll tell you what, we'll get involved, it's better that way. I mean, I have no foundation for that feeling. I just wondered, because of course this is a quite candid documentary, to be honest with you. It gives a real insight into the early years of the Beckhams. I'm not sure you learn a huge amount more about them, other than you do learn about all of his mental health struggles, which perhaps certainly weren't visible, but he hadn't discussed previously. But it sort of raked over a lot of old ground, alleged infidelity and what have you. And of course they have to talk about that. So for someone like me, for lots of people, I think it is an insight authored by them about their life, and lots of unseen footage. The bits of interest, I suppose, there's loads that's of interest, but would be the whole World Cup situation. There was the Alex Ferguson kicking the boot, them both talking, the pivotal moment of when he met Victoria Beckham and the family talking and being interviewed too, his parents concerned that it would ruin his career, as opposed to, the fact he wasn't focused on it completely. It's quite emotional in places. I think Victoria Beckham is kind of a parody of herself these days, and you kind of really never know. And everyone says, oh, she's really funny, but you don't really see her smile. You do get a sense of knowing her here. She's quite quick. She's quite articulate, I think, throughout it, explaining. And they seem to take the mickey out of each other. And this seems to be a family that are in a good place. But you see the children all coming through. The children are all fairly grown up now, apart from their youngest, Harper. So I think this is really interesting, and definitely one that I enjoyed, and I think we'll make column inches for a few days yet. What did you think, Ian?
I really liked it. I must admit, I didn't think I could love Bex anymore, but I do. Having watched some of this, it's very well done. It starts off, the opening sequence is David Beckham attending to his beehives, and he's got a full beekeeper's outfit on, and it's got a little gold DB monogram on it, which is wicked. Then we go into his house, which looks great, and he's wearing a lovely cardigan. He's got a pool table. I'm just thinking, he's got a good life, old Bex, hasn't he? And he was thinking of calling his honey from his hives golden bees, but that's another story. So they've got great access to everyone, including the Beckhams. So in episode 1, as you said, you got Alex Ferguson, his manager at Man U. You got a lot of the players. You got Cantona, who was very good interview with him. You got the Neville brothers, and it's very interesting because you've also got his mum and dad, and you learn about what he was like as a boy, and he was just only interested in football. He didn't want to go out clubbing or meet girls. He was just very focused on that and very kind of hard working, and he got that from his mum and dad. So you don't have to be a football fan, because obviously they're such massive celebrities. One thing that I found quite interesting was how much life has changed for footballers and to the game since Beckham kind of broke through as a player and a celebrity, because as Rio Ferdinand says, of course, we didn't have mobile phones and social media then, and footballers weren't signing massive sponsorship deals. He was kind of like leading the way. So as ever, he comes across incredibly well in this. He's just so charming and just so kind of self-effacing, really. I really enjoyed episode 1, and I will definitely watch the rest. Something even more different now over on Prime Video, arriving on Friday the 6th of October. It's a horror comedy film called Totally Killer. And here's a clip.
Happy Halloween.
How about we all stay in and hand out Halloween candy?
No, Mom.
You know how hard this time of year is for us. Your friends were murdered 35 years ago. It's not 1987 anymore. Stay safe, honey. I love you.
This is a very good idea. So it's kind of Back to the Future meets Scream meets Halloween, I guess. And yeah, it's just absolutely 80s, full on 80s. So the backdrop is there's a mum called Pam. Many years earlier, there were these killings when she was at high school. The killer was known as the Sweet 16 killer because he stabbed all these young girls 16 times. And she survived it, but ever since then she's been terrified that this killer's going to come back and get her. And obviously she's very protective of her daughter. So the daughter is played by Kiernan Shipka. She's brilliant in this. Jamie, the daughter. And mum, Pam, is played by Julie Bowen from Modern Family. So to cut a long story short, the killer does strike again. And Jamie, Back to the Future style, ends up time traveling back to the 80s, yes. And she, of course, wants to try and intervene and stop the killer striking for the first time. It's good. Big hair, big scares, I think it's been described as, because they really get the whole, all the 80s fashions, the music. It's very funny. And she goes back to high school. She pretends she's an exchange student to meet her mum as a young woman. And the mum is a total, well, you can insert the word yourself. She's not very nice. And she's a member of a group of girls, high school girls, who are known as, or the Mollies, because they all dress as different versions of Molly Ringwald from Pretty in Pink. I must say, the attacks are a bit like the ones in Scream. They're very violent, the knife attacks, which, I mean, I'm not too keen on that kind of thing. But it's funny, it's got lots of pop culture references, and obviously she's noticing how back in the 80s, like, people were a lot more sexist and you know, all this sort of stuff. So I think it's really well done. It's a great bit of light entertainment. Thoroughly enjoyed it. What did you think, Hannah?
It is exactly that, isn't it? It is a bit of fun. I'm quite jumpy with things like this. Any kind of horror type thing, I'm quite jumpy with. And you say the kind of the knifing and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit much for me. But I love the 80s thing. Being an 80s child, I think I've been to a number of 80s parties. It was good fun, wasn't it? And I think they nail it really well, actually. They kind of probably romanticize it a bit in places, but actually it's really fun. So yeah, I think what was it? One of the actors said it can be gripping, terrifying, and psychologically mess you up for a couple of days, or it can just be the joyous movie experience. I'm like, yeah, one of those. Take your pick.
Amen to that. Well, we're going to finish by again mixing scares with laughs as we bid a fond farewell to the comedy series Ghosts, which is available as a box set on BBC iPlayer from Friday. And here is a clip.
Life's about to change.
Just a harmless bit of fun.
Is it, Patrick? Is it?
You put a claim in for a fire at your guest house.
Our claim is being investigated. How can we have all this land and nothing to sell?
Money, money, money.
Abba. Ta-da! Thank you, thank you.
There is battle to when one of us go.
Yeah, so this is the 5th and final series, but judging by some of the interviews that I've read, they say never to a return. So if you're a big fan, you can hold out hope that the doors might not be firmly shut, just shut at the moment, but not locked. So yeah, the residents of Button House are back. It's quite interested to know, actually, that house is pretty amazing, and it's not far from where I am. So I think I might have a little drive out and have a look. Now, this is what it is. I mean, if you've liked the past 4 series, you'll like this just as much. I don't love it. I'm not the hugest fan. It kind of mixes genres sometimes. I struggle a bit with that kind of it's funny in places, but it's a bit. I can't even say these words because I think my husband will be absolutely furious that I've said this. But don't find Blackadder that funny. I just don't feel it feels a bit like that for me.
Giddy aunt.
I know. It's not a popular thing to say, but I'm sure there are other people like me out there, but it's not very many. Yeah, lots of kind of spooky shocks. It is very funny in places. There's all these sort of Tudor noblemen that are in. This is what I mean about the genres. It's kind of like, you're historic, but then you've got the current day, and they're trying to run this house, but with all these ghosts hanging around. And it is comedic in places, but I find that humour just a little bit annoying, a little bit sort of. But I am alone because this is the 5th series, and I think that it's ending here because they don't want it to just sort of exhaust itself and not to go anywhere, and maybe just give it a bit of a rest. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny. It is what I would call light entertainment. How about you, Ian? Do you like this?
I absolutely love it. I love the horrible histories gang. I think they're so talented and inventive, and they're behind this as well. So yeah, it's just great. And you've got Charlotte Ritchie. I mean, how well is she doing now? We first saw her in Fresh Meat. So she's sort of playing the straight role as the new owner, Alison, and you've got the wonderful Kyle Smith-Bino as her husband, Mike. They're both terrific. So yeah, in episode 1, just to kind of give people an idea, it's April Fool's Day, and the ghosts play an April Fool on Alison. So she decides to try and get her own back by pranking each of them individually. So yeah, I've absolutely loved it. I mean, it did get remade for American TV, didn't it? I've not seen the American version, but I shall be sorry to see it go, but I'm sure they will come up with another great series, no doubt about that. And yeah, no harm in knowing when to kind of draw the line and say, yeah, we'll stop there and do something new. So goodbye, ghosts, and thanks for all the laughs. Now, we've got to that time, Hannah, where we find out what you've been binge watching this week.
Well, I binged old Strictly with poor old Les being the first one to go. I was quite shocked, actually, that Les Dennis was male. I thought the public would keep him in because he wasn't very good, and they always seem to keep those sort of people in, don't they, for quite an annoying amount of time sometimes. So yeah, that's a shame. But yeah, I'm Strictly feeling a little bit more. It's getting a bit colder now. The nights are drawing in. Feels about right, doesn't it?
Yeah, ready for movie week. Well, for myself, I watched the highlights of the thrilling European victory in the Ryder Cup Golf.
Wasn't it fab?
Absolutely superb. And last night, I watched Partygate, which is a docudrama about lockdown and what was happening at 10 Downing Street. And that's really good, worth a look. Well, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's podcast. So what will we be talking about, Hannah?
Anne Rice's classic vampire novel is updated in the lavish new BBC series Interview with the Vampire.
And Kelsey Grammer returns as much-loved sitcom shrink Dr. Crane in a Frasier reboot on Paramount+. So, we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, keep watching!